What's up, ladies and gents? Welcome to the podonthego show. I'm your host, Raz. And this week, we have a new theme. It was the week of February 8th, 2021. Last night was the Super Bowl. Tom Brady pulled it out again. 7 Super Bowls. Crazy. He has, I think it's like more than any other team. I think the Cowboys have 6 and the Steelers have 6, and he has 7 by himself. Incredible. And I think he's going to play again next year. So it's crazy. A lot of people hate on Tom Brady, but he's the GOAT. And, I'll just leave it at that, because this week we're going to talk about consistency, which is, a great segue, actually, because he's been consistently the best for, 20 years. It's crazy. Crazy to even think about. All right. And why is consistency important for podcasting and live streaming and creatives and, anything creative? Why is it important? Because you're only going to get better the more you do it. And I think Bruce Lee said something like he fears not the man who knows 1,000 different kicks, but the man who's done one kick 1,000 times. That's the meaning of consistency. Today specifically, though, we're going to talk about tools and the tools you need in our podcasting one-on-one segment. So this is for beginners, but also maybe, some experienced podcasters can learn from this as well. We're going to talk about tools. The best investment is in the tools of one's own trade. And that comes from Benjamin Franklin. And, that is, I think tools are important because if you want to be successful, if you want to stay consistent, if you want to get to episode 100 or 1,000 of your podcast, you're going to need the right tools. It's at a certain point, you can start with just a very inexpensive mic. Even you can start with your headphones for your iPhone or your Google phone. You can start with that and start a great podcast, but it's not going to take you to the next level, right? And it's not even about microphones and streaming software and audio editing software. You can get all that for free or really cheap and still have a great podcast with other things in place. But it's more so about the things that you're going to need to make sure that you're publishing on a consistent basis, to make sure that you are, putting out consistent content so people begin to trust you and trust that you're going to always be there and trust that you're going to keep putting out that great content. That's what people want to know, that they can come back and they can recommend you to people because you're going to continue to put out great content. So what tools do I use? Number one tool that I use every day, multiple times a day, is a project management tool. There's a lot of different alternatives, but the one I seem to like the most is Trello. I like the ease of use. I like that you can that there are cards so you can easily move one thing to the next. So, for instance, I use it in conjunction with, which I'll show you in the next tool, but I use it in conjunction with a lot of other tools just to help automate and ease my workflow. So, for example, one of my podcasts is the Great Trials Podcast. I wonder if I have a picture of it that I can show you. One of my podcasts is the Great Trials Podcast. And I'll show it to you right here. The Great Trials Podcast. Tremendous podcast. They interview the nation's, but probably the world's top lawyers. And they talk about the top cases. You should definitely check it out. They just reached 100 episodes, so they are the gold standard in my book of consistency. And I've been right there with them from the beginning, so I know how it works. But anyway, I record a new episode with them via Zoom. I upload it to Google Drive, and then I add a link to Trello. And in Trello, my editor was my good friend Phil. He takes it, edits it at home, edits it, at his desktop, and then uploads it right back to Trello so that I can finish putting the final touches on it, check it, make sure it sounds great, and then upload it to Podbean, our podcast host for the client. So Trello is it's a project management tool. It allows me to keep everything in one place. I know I can go back if there's an issue with the episode. I can go back if I need to pull clips from an older episode. It's all there in Trello. It just makes it so easy and simple once you have a process for it. The next one is Google Drive. I use this for everything. Anytime I need to share a file with a client, if I need to share a file with my editor or my fact checker or whoever it is, Google Drive is always there. It's easy to upgrade, and so you can have pretty much unlimited space, storage space. It's easy to share a link to it and give people the right amount of access, whether you just want them to see it or if you want them to edit it and be able to download it. Google Drive saves me a ton of time, and it's so simple. I like this tool because it's so simple to organize things in folders. Everybody has a Google account one way or another, and Google knows everything about us anyway, right? So it's so simple for people to share a Google Drive file with people. I like Dropbox some, but I've kind of shied away from it because it just doesn't. I don't know. It's just too expensive for what you get, in my opinion. Well, Google, I'd rather pay for Google Drive, and I have a business account, so I get an email and I get upgraded storage as well. So if you're serious about growing your podcast, I would suggest upgrading your Google Drive account so that you can use it with Trello. It partners well with Trello, which is how I share links and how I upload audiograms and how I upload podcasts and how I save all of my podcasts in chronological order so that I can easily find them, along with the podcast art, along with the podcast recording, the raw recordings, unedited and edited, pre-show, post-show, all that stuff. Headliner is a tool for creating audiograms. It makes it really, really easy to. An audiogram is I don't have an example, but I can show you an example probably on the next show, or just go to Headliner and you'll see it. You know exactly what I mean. It's where you'll see it on Instagram or Facebook sometimes, and it's an image of the podcast art, and below you have the audio waveforms moving in different ways to signify and let people know that there's audio. And sometimes you have a transcript at the bottom. So this way, if you see the audiogram on LinkedIn and you're at work, or you're like at work, but you follow a podcast, you can still see a highlight from the podcast without turning the volume, to 100 and getting caught at work, browsing social media. But you can still interact even if you need to be discreet about it. So that's why I like Headliner. It's also just a short way to, on radio, when you work in radio, there's a lot of these little hits. I don't know the exact terminology. I forgot it right now. I've heard it before, but there's like little teaser pieces, right? Before the show and after the show, or even on the news stations, like coming up next is, a child opens lemonade stand and this is what happened, So you're teasing people to stay and remain engaged. That's what an audiogram does, in my opinion. It kind of teases people to stay engaged with the podcast. So you want to pull out the best clip you possibly can for your audiogram from the podcast and share that so that people become engaged and they want to go to your podcast to subscribe. That's the whole point of an audiogram. It's not to, it's whatever. The point is to get people to always go back and download more of your audio, download your podcast. Temi. So Temi is a really cool one. I didn't know about it until my buddy Henrik de Gure told me about it. He's the podcast host as well, and a speaker and an entrepreneur and an author. Great guy. He told me about this, and it's an audio transcription service, but it's all done by AI. So, all you have to do is upload your audio file, and I do this every day, and for 25 cents a minute, they'll transcribe it, and within a few minutes, it'll be transcribed for you. And then the cool thing about it is that it also creates timestamps, and you can edit it really easy on the website. And you can also create it and download a file so that it becomes captions. So if you want to download it and upload it to YouTube as captions, you can do that. If you want to download the file and upload it to Premiere Pro or another video editor, and add captions and then create your own audiograms, that's amazing. You can do that as well. So it's a really cool tool. And what I like to use it for is I like to, every day on the blog on podonthego, I take these videos, these live streams I do, and I post everything on the blog at podonthego.com. And this allows me to not only create content, it allows me to, just add, get more viewers, get more eyes on the website. But the cool thing about transcription that I never thought about is that there are people in other countries who are trying to learn English or trying to learn whatever language, right? If you have a transcript of the podcast on your website, then they can listen and transcribe it into their language. And at the same time, read along and listen along, and kind of it helps them to learn English as well. So you might be able to pick up, Chinese, African, Indian, Afghan, whatever. You might be able to pick up some really cool new listeners from different countries that you couldn't before if you have a transcription on your site. And it's a really, especially if you're doing one episode a week, 120-minute episode a week, it's really an inexpensive way to add more content to your site. Canva. If Canva ever goes public, I will invest as much of my money as I can into Canva. I love this website. I create my slides on Canva, my podcast art. A lot of times I do that. If you ever see any social media art I have that is really cool, I have my logo created by a great professional company called Pioneer Marketing, but every other piece of marketing material I create on Canva. Anything from PDFs to client project proposals to whatever, Facebook posts, social media posts, everything I need, I create on Canva. And then if I need to, you can export it as a PDF so you can make it look professional. You're not just sending people images. I can take it and download it as JPEG, and I can add it to PowerPoint, which is what I'm using now for my slides. It's easy, and it's a great tool because now you look professional. They have great themes and templates on there to make you look professional. You can add your logos and to a folder, so you always have your logos handy. You don't have to go looking through all this stuff. You can create templates so that every day you don't have to recreate the wheel and create a new thumbnail for your show. You can just it just makes it extremely easy and extremely fast to create and edit and manage all your thumbnails for your videos, all your thumbnails for your podcast art. Tremendous. If you're not using Canva, please check it out. And also, I'm not getting paid for any of these shout outs I'm giving, just as a heads up. This is just stuff that I use. But yes, Canva. Yeah. So, and again, all these tools, the idea is that these make my life easier. If I have to spend an hour recording, if I have to spend an hour prep, an hour recording, and then another 2 or 3 hours editing, and then another hour or two, sharing things on social media and sharing things, creating artwork to share stuff, I'm not going to do it. Nobody's going to do it. Nobody's going to stay consistent when you're spending 8 hours, a week putting work into something that you haven't even seen a benefit from yet. You're investing all this time. It's cool. Yeah. Okay. I can invest. I'll go in. I'll invest $500. Maybe a lot of people out here, it's like, let's go into a podcast together. Let's create a podcast for our business. Let's invest $500 to $1,000 in the equipment and maybe get an editor, maybe get some help with it. Somebody to help us launch it. Fine. Money is whatever, we can invest in something, but it's the time that's the hard part. So all of these tools that I'm listing now is the things that will save you time, which in the long run will save you money and allow you to continue to be consistent with the podcast, which is the most important thing. Consistency. Keep going. Background remover. So remove.bg. It is just a very simple site. You upload an image and it removes the background for you. And it just makes your thumbnails look more professional, and people click on thumbnails more when it's just I don't know. I've just noticed this myself. Like, people click on things when the backgrounds are moved. It's weird. And you have like a weird background behind you, but you're there. But then you have, maybe an outline around you, or maybe you have a cool background in the back. But removing the background it just makes it, more clickable for some reason. It's just something I've noticed. It's something I've seen other YouTubers and podcasters have success with when you're creating a thumbnail. So remove the background and then put yourself, if you're going to be the photo, then put yourself somewhere else that relates to what you talk about in your video. And this is just the easiest way I've seen it. I can do it on Photoshop pretty easily. That's easy. You can do it in other background removal software. I think even Canva has a tool for it, but remove.bg, and there's other alternatives out there. They were the first one that popped up when I searched for Google, and they have been the best one that I've used. They have, you upload the image, they remove it in, I don't know, 20, 30 seconds, and then you can upload it back to Canva and use it however you want, right? So it's just another way to just save time. It takes 30 seconds to remove the background. I'll show you in the thumbnail here. It takes 30 seconds to remove the background, and it just makes it so simple. All right, so final thoughts. The best investment is in the tools of one's own trade. Benjamin Franklin. Is that the same quote I used at the beginning? Yep. Sorry, guys. It's still my final thought, though. It's still my final thought. I think I copied and pasted the wrong one. The idea I'm getting at is that the tools don't make the man, but the man becomes a better man with the right tools, right? I've seen it 1,000 times in my life. I've seen it when I was a musician. I could see an expert musician pick up a terrible beginner instrument with dents in it and with pads that were missing if you're a brass instrument player, and still sound amazing, right? But they sound even more amazing. They were able to get in the zone more when they had an instrument that, whether if it was a trombone and the slide was perfect, there were no dents in the slide, or if they played the tuba like I did and there wasn't a button that stuck, that was sticky. There wasn't a valve that was sticky. So it's the same thing happens with carpenters. I recently started doing some woodworking, and one thing I've noticed is that a lot of things are just so much easier when you have the right tool for the job. You can build a house with a hammer and nails and a handsaw, and a chisel or something like that. But it's so much easier when you have a miter saw and an air gun nailer and all this stuff. Then you can become creative. Then your creativity can come out. Then you have time to add extra flair to it and add your own personal style. So the tool, if you're not thinking so much about the tools, you can trust the tools and they're saving you time, then that allows you to be more creative, put more of yourself into the project, put more of yourself into the product. So there you go. There you go. Consistency. The tools matter. The tools you use matter. So that's one thing you have to pick and choose with. You're not going to like all the tools I listed. Nobody will, because these are just the ones that make sense to me. My buddy Tyler, if I recommend him Trello, he'll try use something else. He'll say, no, I like Monday, or I don't know what another project matter is. He's like, I like it better. We're the same, but we're different. So it's the same with my wife. If I say, hey, I want ribs tonight. Okay, let's get pork ribs. No, I was thinking about beef ribs. That type of thing, right? It's not going to be the same for everybody. You're going to like something completely different than I am, but I want you to start focusing on the tools you use and seeing where you can upgrade and where you can improve, and begin to invest in that. If you find a sponsor, I would highly suggest don't put the money in your pocket from the sponsor, but reinvest it back into your tools for your podcast. All right, guys, I think that's enough for today. Thank you guys for watching. I am Raz with Podcast on the Go, LLC. This is the Pod on the Go show, and I thank you for listening. If you want to launch a podcast, if you're thinking about launching a podcast, go to podonthego.com, where you can find a studio near you and find an expert to help you launch the podcast of your dreams. So thank you guys for watching. I'm Raz. Peace out.